Hey, Larken Rose here. I'm going to try to ask nicely here while watching this video and then commenting below if you feel so inclined. Try not to be a complete idiot, okay? And I say that because I posted about this on Facebook and Twitter, and a number of people showed that they have the comprehension skills of a turnip. Because I got responses like, oh, I didn't know Larken was Antifa. Okay, so try to dial down your feels a little bit and maybe turn up your ability to think. Trump did this post. I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter. First of all, why does he end all his moronic babblings with, thank you for your attention to this matter? Does he not know what that's for? He seems to just put it in because it's words. Be that as it may, let me preface this by saying this video is not about Antifa. Okay? So don't say, oh, you don't think Antifa? Well, it's not about Antifa. Now, Antifa, as far as I can tell, isn't even a formal organization anyway. Like, who decides who's in it? It's just people saying that and using that name and whatever. Lots of people using that name or under that banner, if you want to call it, have done violent, stupid, pointless, counterproductive, immoral, criminal stuff. A lot of those were probably government instigators trying to do that and rile up all that. All of that is aside from the point of this video. This isn't about Antifa. This is about people's inability to think in principles. Anybody cheering for this is a gullible dupe. And you may be saying, well, but they're super bad. I'm glad he declared them. What does it mean? I hereby declare Swedish meatballs to be awesome. Okay? You can declare whatever the hell you want. What does it mean when the President of the United States declares an organization, which may or may not exist, to be a terrorist organization? What does that mean? Like, I'm making this official decree. Okay, what the hell does that mean? What it means is now we have a category. And if we can associate you with that category, we can then stick the label of terrorist on you. And then you don't really get presumption of innocence. Then you may not really get due process at all. In fact, we, the benevolent political overlords, may just murder you. Because you're in that category of people that we have declared bad and horrible terrorists, so you don't get due process. You get this label, which then means the normal things like presumption of innocence and burden of proof. Now that's out the window. Now we can just demonize you and kill you. Now, I know a bunch of Trumpites are going to say, oh, you're just being silly. He literally just did that twice. He blew up 2 boats, not even in U.S. territory. He murdered a bunch of people, and he did it twice. And the basis was, well, we have evidence. You don't get to see it. But the ruling class has evidence that they were super bad, so we killed them. He's already demonstrated that's his mindset. He just did that. And Trumpites are so bad at thinking. They're like, well, it was like in international waters. That makes it worse. Do you not comprehend that that makes it worse? Like if you did that on some river in the U.S., it's like, okay, that's within the territory that the U.S. ruling class claims the right to rule. It's a bogus claim, but that's what they claim anyway. Totally evil, total violation of due process to just murder people because the ruling class says they were bad. But they murdered people way nowhere near U.S. territory in what is absolutely a war crime. Twice, Trump did that, and he didn't do it secretly. He did it boldly and loudly, demonstrating that he thinks if he can categorize people in a certain way, it's okay to murder them. No trial, no proof, no evidence, no nothing, just murder, because Mango Mussolini said they're super bad people. You got to do it. You got to just murder them. So if you're okay with him designating some organization as a terrorist organization, why? What does that mean? What does that accomplish? What it accomplishes is demonizing this vague category of people that they can put anybody in. Well, you have ties to Antifa because that person believed a thing and this person said something else that sort of sounded like that. So now you're in that category. And if you're a terrorist, guess how much due process you get? I realize some people have short attention spans or weren't paying attention 5 seconds ago. You know the whole waterboarding thing? If we declare you to be a terrorist, we can torture you. Not if you're convicted, not if we have proof, not if we have a trial and you're found guilty of something. Just if we say you're that, we can torture you. And it might be torture you to death. But hey, you're a terrorist because we, the psychopaths in government, have stuck that label on you. Now, as if it wasn't bad enough in the case of Antifa, the Trumpites cheering for this, do you have no memory? Do you have no brains? Do you have no concept of a principle? Do you not remember the FBI memo that wasn't that many years ago saying that, better watch out for domestic terrorists in the U.S. And one of the indications that somebody might be a domestic terrorist is they talk about the Constitution a little too much. Do you not remember that, you imbeciles? That's the same FBI. That's the same U.S. ruling class that now you're cheering for being able to just categorize this group of people as you're in the bad group. You're terrorists because parasitical psychopaths say so. So you don't really get due process. And we're going to spy on you. And we're going to look into who's funding you. And we're going to treat you like criminals because of ideas you expressed. And feeling the need to explain this to anyone is kind of ridiculous. Murder is illegal. Smashing people's property is illegal. If somebody in Antifa, as if that's a thing you can be in, and let's pretend it's somebody who's not just a paid government infiltrator because they got caught over and over again doing it. Gee, who benefits from that? Let's say an actual person who actually considers himself Antifa, smash some store's front window and stole a bunch of stuff or burned the building down or something. First of all, that's bad. Second of all, that's illegal. What the hell difference does it make whether you stick the label of terrorism on that? And you can see, if you're paying any attention, how eager the psychopaths in power under Trump are to stick the label of terrorism on anything they don't like. Just like the stupid power-happy stooges under Biden were eager to stick the label of terrorism onto anything they don't like. Just like the terrorists under Bush and Clinton. And all of them are eager to categorize certain general groups of people, not individuals who actually did something bad, like assault somebody or murder somebody or smash some property. No, some general mindset or vague organization that they can kind of say they think you're sort of related to. And because they say that, you then get different treatment. What kind of different treatment? Do you get presumption of innocence the same as everybody else? No. Do you get due process the same as everybody? No. Is the burden of proof still on them? No. Because you're bad. We put this label on you, you're bad. That's all this is. I'm declaring him to be a terrorist organization. Murder and destroying property was already illegal. What does the declaration do? And I've even seen some Trumpites. I had to check sometimes because I couldn't even tell if they were being sarcastic or that bootlickingly stupid They're like, yeah, it's open season on Antifa. You fucking idiots. Did you not notice when anybody who wanted a firearm was characterized by the U.S. ruling class? Or are you under the impression that Trump is going to live forever and be emperor forever? You don't think maybe someday somebody will be there who you don't like? I mean, somebody's there already who you shouldn't like, but given that you're an idiot and fell for Mango Mussolini's bullshit, you think there's not going to be a Democrat there who can then say, oh, these people talking about the Second Amendment and talking as if the Second Amendment is about resisting government, well, they're obviously terrorists. So we're going to make lists and we're going to categorize them and we're going to have special units looking into those people and investigating who's funding those people. Are you really so stupid you don't think that would happen? Especially given that it already did. They already did that. And if you're cheering for this stupid bullshit, what's your complaint going to be when a slightly different puppet of the machine decides to categorize you as a terrorist because you're not fond of some stupid thing the government is doing? What do you think it means to officially declare, to have the head puppet, who isn't really the head of anything, declare these people in this not exactly real organization of just vague affiliation of people who sort of have certain ideas? Now they're in the category of terrorists, and then you got to stamp them out. And the fact that there are people of now it's open season on Antifa, how dumb are you? You are cheering for the government to be able to bypass everything in the Bill of Rights, due process, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, because they stuck a label on some people. Not because they proved something, because you can already do that. If you can prove somebody committed murder or smash somebody's windows, the laws say you can already prosecute them for that. You want a different standard based on somebody in government labeled somebody a certain way. That is colossally stupid. Just colossally stupid to think this means anything and that this is good. That, yeah, well, if government categorizes this vague sort of category of people as terrorists, now we can treat them differently because that's what that categorization is for. That's what that label is for. So now they can say, you're a member of a terrorist organization. You know what's going to be next? Anybody who criticizes the psychopaths in the ruling class of Israel, because they're already pushing that crap. Anybody who talks about the Second Amendment and the Constitution that much, because they're already pushing that crap. They already did that before Trump was even in office. To cheer for this is just so colossally stupid. But people get this stupid narrow view of, they're the bad guys, let's go get them. Because they don't grasp the point of principles and they don't grasp how tyrants get around those in every tyrannical regime in history. Did they ever come out? Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia, Red China, North Korea still. Do they come out and say, we want to spy on all you good people in case you don't like us and are saying things critical of us? Has any ruling class ever said that? No, we're watching out for terrorists who spread dangerous, radical, sounds kind of familiar. So now certain thoughts and expressions will be dangerous and radical, like hate speech. Imbecile Pam Bondi just came out and said, well, we can't have hate speech. We're going to go after you if you engage in hate speech. Like, what the hell does that mean? Now, thankfully, lots of conservatives were like, what? When did you turn into Biden? What the hell are you talking about? No, hate speech is not and cannot be illegal. What is wrong with you, you psycho? And then she backpedaled and pretended, oh, I just meant people who are like actively involved in crime. No, you didn't, you lying psycho. By the way, where are those Epstein files? But to not be aware of how they use these things and to what they do to try to sidestep the principles of due process, how dumb do you have to be to not know this is how government always functions? We're going to get somebody that most people, or at least lots of people, think is really, really bad. And then we're going to point to them and say, see these really, really bad people? We're going to get you super upset. Maybe it's actual bad people. Maybe they really did something bad. I mean, government will lie and make things up and false flag all over the place. But let's say there's actually bad people doing bad things, because there are some of those. And we're going to get you so upset by pointing to those bad people and the horrible things they did, that you're so emotional and angry at them that when we say, yeah, this is why we need to like throw posse comitatus out the window, habeas corpus out the window, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, yeah, Sixth Amendment, all that stuff, Ninth and 10th Amendments, well, we flushed them down the toilet decades ago. But yeah, never mind all those things because this person's super bad, so you want us to be able to do absolutely anything to go get them, right? You want us in power to have unbridled, unlimited, arbitrary, authoritarian power. Never mind the silly things like constitution and limits and due process and anything like that. Look how bad they are. They're super bad. You need to get your Lord and Savior, Mango Mussolini, unilateral, dictatorial police state powers to go get those people. And I see some people falling for that. And those people are fucking stupid. And it's going to come back to bite you in the butt. It already did before, and you still didn't notice. You still didn't notice the principle involved. You know, if somebody is doing evil crap, one, that's illegal. Two, you can already prosecute them. If you're one of those people who believe in rah, 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 government's going to save the day. No, it isn't. You can already prosecute them. All you have to do is like have evidence that they did something and prove it. I mean, if somebody's out there murdering somebody or smashing windows and you catch them and go, here they are, okay. Do you need some politician labeling them as a certain thing? What's that for? Well, it's so we don't really need to give them due process. And so when we punish them, we can punish them extra hard. Like maybe if you called a bunch of people insurrectionists for going to a place unarmed, having a protest, breaking into private property, and by breaking in, I mean getting let in by the cops, sort of kind of trespassing. Well, now you're insurrectionists, and when we put that label on you, we can prosecute the hell out of you, even if you didn't do anything. In fact, even if you weren't there. But you walked around and you stayed between the velvet rope. Well, you're an insurrectionist. We're sticking that label on you. The left just did that, you imbeciles. Did you not notice what happens when the ruling class can just label somebody? Oh, you're an insurrectionist. By the way, anybody who still calls that an insurrection is an absolute imbecile. In no way, shape, or form was that an insurrection. It was a frat party tantrum among a bunch of bozos who just wanted a different clown on the throne. Like none of them wanted freedom. They went, we want this guy to rule us and dominate us and rob us. Well, you got it, dumbasses, and your taxes went up and your freedom went down. Way to go. Be that as it may, as stupid as that tantrum was, it wasn't an insurrection. Almost all of you Trumpites were complaining about the media still calling it an insurrection because that was ridiculous. Why did they call it that? Because if you can call somebody an insurrectionist and stick that label on them, then you can mistreat them, which happened. Lots of people were caged for a stupid amount of time for dumb little trespass, basically. You know, the people who just walked in, let in by police. I'm not even sure that counts as trespass. When the cops are there and go, come on in. Okay, is this trespassing? If the cops just invited me in. But at worst, what most of those people did was a minor, stupid little trespass. And even that's bogus. Trespassing on public property. It's property built and paid for with stolen loot, stolen from the people who walked in. So it's the lowest level of trespass there could possibly be. Yet they were called insurrectionists and caged for a long time. And the way they did that was have a label you can put on. This was an insurrection. This was an insurrection. We're going to keep saying that until a bunch of idiots believe it. And there are still idiots on the left who refer to it as an insurrection. Yeah, we're going to go have a revolution. Oops, did you forget your guns? Yeah, I forgot my guns too. Darn, let's go walk between some velvet ropes and see if the ruling class collapses. It wasn't an insurrection. And no, somebody isn't just magically a terrorist because they say, we don't like fascists. Now, I have plenty of things that I would say to bash a bunch of people who put the label of Antifa on themselves. Like, it comes from the word anti-fascist, and a bunch of people who may call themselves that are just against fascism, okay? Me too. But a bunch of them, whether government instigators or just idiots, literally act like fascists. We're going to violently silence opinions we don't like and violently interfere with this and that and the other thing and pretend it's because we're fighting fascism. You are the fascist, you dumbasses. Like, read a history book. In Nazi Germany, when their main competition, the main people arguing against it were communists, okay, idiots versus idiots. That's going to work out great. Authoritarian collectivists versus very slightly different authoritarian collectivists. You're doomed. You're doomed no matter who wins. And they were doomed. And horrible things happened. So the actual organization, which isn't an organization, lots of people in it just don't like fascism. Neither do I. So they use that label, and then you have instigators and some stupid people getting violent in all the wrong directions for the most part. We're going to smash a storefront. What did that guy do? Well, we're just super mad and emotional and stupid, but we're mad. Huh, what does that remind me of? Trumpites who think this is a good idea. We're super mad at the other people. Never mind due process and law. Call them terrorists, put a label on them. And then throw due process and everything else out the way. You don't need to prove it anymore because they're part of that group of undesirables. And Trump has already done this with illegal aliens. You got to do it. You got to treat them all like crap and violently initiate force against all of them. No, you don't, you dumbasses. And if you knew how to think in principles, no matter how much you would criticize a bunch of people who call themselves Antifa, you would still look at this and go, whoa, that's dumb. That's not, no, just, it's already illegal to assault people and smash property. You don't need another law. And you'd think that conservatives with 3 brain cells would be able to grasp this because they argue the exact same thing when it comes to things like gun control. Murder's already illegal. Why do you need another law making owning that gun that that guy used to murder somebody, make that illegal too? Because you think he's going to be okay with murder, but not okay with breaking a gun law. This is stupid. You're just blanket villainizing a huge number of people instead of just going after the individuals who actually do bad things, which you can already do under existing law. Okay, say those arguments again and look in the stinking mirror. Because that exactly applies to this stupid shit of Mango Mussolini coming out and saying, I'm designating them as terrorists so that we don't really have to pay attention to the Constitution anymore. And the fact that, some people go, well, no, it's not going to go that far. The fact that Trump literally, personally, just committed to blatant acts of murder and war crimes and bragged about it and publicized it shows what he will do. It shows his mentality. It shows that he thinks, and anybody supporting that, it shows what they think too. That as long as you don't like some category, they're narco-terrorists because we say they are. Maybe they aren't really. We don't have to prove it. We can just murder them. Not even in the U.S., just international waters, go commit a war crime twice and brag about it. Anybody cheering for that? How stupid are you? How stupid are you to accept the premise that the clown on the throne can just declare somebody to be super dangerous and radical and then kill them? You really can't imagine the U.S. ruling class declaring you? Well, anybody with that MAGA hat, that shows that they're in this group and they're domestic terrorists and they're probably insurrectionists, so they don't deserve due process. Like, it's already been done to you. And you're still too stupid to notice the principle. So yes, this declaration is completely stupid and bogus and will lead to horrible things, no matter what you think of Antifa, or no matter who you think that is, or whether you think that's actually an organization, and whether you're too dense to realize that government constantly uses things like this to put in their own instigators, to create strife, to bring in the police state bullshit, to keep doing it. Oh, ICE is randomly going around like a bunch of masked thugs, dragging people off the street. Then a bunch of people protested. Look, terrorists protesting. You showed up and acted like fascists, and then some people protested. And then you put in some instigators to make things violent so you could crack down on them more. Conservatives, you should understand how this works by now. It's been used against you over and over again. And it's being used against you again, but because it's being done by the Republican Party, you're cheering for it because you're unprincipled morons. It's just amazing to see. Now, thankfully, I have seen some conservatives, not very many, going, okay, this is a little bogus. You don't just categorize some vague group of people with this label and then screw due process and... But hasn't been very many. I see lots of people cheering for it. Yeah, declare them to be a thing. Why? So murder becomes illegal? Already was, dumbass. So smashing property becomes illegal? It already was, you dumbass. It's so government can grab more arbitrary, random, unlimited authoritarian power, and you're cheering for it because you're fucking stupid. Even after the exact same tactics have been used on you. And even though the exact same tactics will be used on you again when the other clown party sits on the throne as they take turns stomping on you. And then I try to explain this and people go, I didn't know you were Antifa, Larken. Has there been some, department of lobotomies that's been sneaking into everybody's houses and removing half their brains recently? Because I see a lot of people whose comprehension skills are just astonishingly bad. Like I explained this in the, so you like Antifa? So I want to see if anyone's dumb enough to comment that below this video. Probably somebody will. I bet somebody will. And the thing is, you can be as zealous as you want against whether imaginary bad people or actually bad people. But if you don't know how to think, which you don't if you support Mango Mussolini, and you don't if you support the Democrat psychopaths, if you don't know how to think, your righteous anger is just going to be used to make you cheer for your own enslavement. Wait a minute. There's a movie that mentions that. What was that movie again?